I want to talk about something with respect to Israel and Palestine. And it's the fact that a lot of people are using the word genocide to describe what Israel is doing in Gaza. I have a real problem with this because I don't think it's accurate. I think it's grossly inaccurate. And it's not because I agree with what Israel is doing in Gaza. I'm not sure that I do. It's quite possible that I don't. I don't have a fully formed opinion, and it might take me a while to have a fully formed opinion because there's a lot I need to learn that I intend to learn. But I think, I haven't looked up the dictionary definition of genocide, but the word itself, if you understand, English or took Latin like I did, is self-explanatory. It's essentially the killing of an entire people, of an entire ethnicity. And whatever you might think of what's happening in Gaza, and no matter what you think, just killing is terrible. So there have been reportedly roughly, 20,000 deaths, I believe half of whom have been children. So there's nothing good about that, right? I think we can all agree on that. But first of all, being Palestinian, as far as I understand, is not an ethnicity, right? Because Palestinians, by and large, or maybe entirely, are Arabs, as far as I understand. That's the ethnicity. The ethnicity is Arab. So I don't know how many Arabs there are in the world, but just in Gaza, before it was cleared out with the bombing of the past couple months, there were 2.5 million people. Then I believe West Bank has 3.5, so that's 6 million Arabs living in Palestine. Not to mention, there are at least 51, well, no, I'm sorry, that's Muslim countries. So scratch that. But I'm, fairly certain that the worldwide population of Arabs is in the tens, if not hundreds of millions. I can look that number up. But regardless what the number is, 20,000, which is the reported number of deaths in Gaza over the last 2 months, is a very small percentage of, first of all, the 2.5 million Arabs who are living in Gaza, the 6 million total Arabs that were in Palestine, and the worldwide Arab population. So just on a numbers percentage basis, we are nowhere near a genocide, which does not take away from the fact that it's terrible. And you don't have to call it a genocide. You don't have to call it something it isn't, something that's inaccurate, in order for it to be terrible. So I think there's a huge just irresponsibility to that term being used. And while I don't agree with some of the ways in which references to the Holocaust are made by Israelites, by Jews, by people in general, in this particular case, the Holocaust is actually a very appropriate and accurate reference point. because I believe the number of Jews killed by Hitler was 6 million. Again, I don't know what the world population of Jews was then. Today it's roughly 14 million. It would be a lot larger if the Holocaust hadn't happened. But regardless what the total world Jewish population was back then, 6 million was a significant percentage. And so when we're talking about that occurrence, genocide is, probably a very good description of what that was. And, in fact, in modern times, the Holocaust is the example of genocide. So whatever one thinks about what's happening in Gaza today, terrible as it is, it does not approach anything resembling a genocide. And I wish that people would stop using that word because it's just grossly irresponsible. I think they're using it to, make their point, but it unnecessarily, I think, inflames hatred or resentment of Israel and Jews, which does not need any help. There's enough of it to go around already. And again, as I keep saying, you don't have to agree with what Israel is doing in order to just say what it's doing is wrong, what it's doing is unethical. It might be a war crime. I mean, those are all arguments and cases that can be made, but you don't need to call it a genocide because it isn't one. So, and the last point I'll make is that certain people say that the language that Israel uses when referring to Palestinians is the language of genocide. I don't know to what extent this is true. That may or may not be the case. One can, I guess, make that argument, but to say that the language Israel uses is the language of genocide and to call what Israel has done a genocide are two completely different things. So again, whatever language Israel uses, which may well be terrible, if we're just looking at what it has actually done in Gaza, it is not a genocide.